Greetings, dear friends and fellow travelers, and welcome to Life Mastery TV, your source for inspiration, empowerment, and fulfillment. My name is David McLeod. I am your Life Mastery coach and author of the book, A Life to Die For, which you can get, by the way, on Amazon. And it's a great book. I hope you'll pick up a copy. Today, we are doing episode 157. And we're going to be talking about intuition, your secret superpower. So I'd like to just remind you that this is a live presentation, and I would just like to invite you all to participate by posting your questions and comments in the chat area on the left side of your screen, and we will do our best to answer those as we progress. So from a young age, people in the world today seem to be conditioned to engage exclusively in rational, intellectual, left brain, logical, scientific, and sequential thinking. The concept of spirituality is widely minimized and sometimes even scorned or disparaged, to the point where we have a general disconnect from our true nature as boundless creative beings. As a result, intuition gets a bad rap, and many of us are actively discouraged from listening to the voice within. If we look at the world we have created from this one-sided approach, we can see the imbalance is leading us into some unpleasant and, shall we say, kind of acrimonious territory. Anyway, to reverse this trajectory and to heal the damage, we need to reconnect to our spiritual essence and find our way back to the powerful intuition that we have forgotten about. So for this week's episode, I've invited a master intuitive coach and healing facilitator with a wealth of education and life experience behind her. She is a dynamic speaker and powerful personal guide who draws from a broad range of skills to guide people to find better health, improved relationships, and work they enjoy that makes more money. And lucky for us, she's agreed to come here and share her wisdom and facilitate a transition to your secret superpower. So please join me in welcoming Jenny Hughes to the program. Welcome, Jenny. Thank you so much for being here today.
Woohoo! Thank you so much for having me on, David. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and so you and I were talking before, and I understand you've got a really, really interesting life. And I know that at one point in your life, at least according to your bio, you used to be, now let me get this right, a mechanical engineer in Silicon Valley. So I'm curious, what happened? What changed that you decided to shift your focus away from something so scientific and engineering to something more esoteric and more spiritual? What was the shift that happened for you?
Right, that's a great question. What really interrupted my engineering career was wanting to be a mom and wanting to be home with my kids.
Right.
And my husband at the time and I decided to move up to kind of a rural area. We're in the Sierra Nevada foothills to start a family. And so I left my career to do that. And it was while I was raising my kids that I got interested in personal development. And what really changed things for me was a Dr. Phil episode, which sounds kind of funny, but he had this one episode where he was exploring kind of alternative modalities. And he had on a numerologist, a lady who does people's numbers. He had on an intuitive counselor, and he had on a guy who reads people's colors. And then the fourth guest was this fellow who actually ran a company whose mission it was to educate people about how this was all a bunch of hooey. And I tuned into this thing and I was like, oh my gosh, who's going to get thrown under the bus? And so really fascinating episode, but what really caught my attention was the numerologist. I had never heard of numerology, and she worked with a couple right there on the show. She did their numbers using their names and birthdays and told them all about their personalities and the ways that they were challenged in the numerology. And I was fascinated. I ran out, I bought her book, I devoured it, and I started doing people's numerology charts in social settings. I would just have my little notebook with me. I had my Kindle so that I could read the descriptions of what the numbers meant, but I really resonated with it. So I learned really quickly what that meant. And in that process, people started saying, hey, you should be a coach. And I thought, me? I am the one who needs all the help. How could I be a coach?
Right.
Well, it turns out that we all need help. we all need support. And I entered a coaching program. The first coaching program I entered was the intuitive coaching. And at that time, I did not know that I had an intuition, or I thought if I do have one, it's definitely broken.
Right.
And when I realized, I remember vividly when I found out it really works. I was on vacation with my family. We had a beautiful house on a beach, and there was a couple out on the beach, and we were on our patio, and we noticed that they were searching around, searching in the sand. And they came up to us and they said, oh gosh, we have to go right now, but she lost her ring. It's this brand new platinum with diamond inlays.
Oh my
God. They were just heartbroken. They had lost it in the sand. And we said, oh, we'll start looking for it. And they had to go. And I think they were leaving. They had a flight out the next day. So we got out there. There were 5 or 6 of us. My mom, I remember, she found a rake in the shed of the place we were staying at. I thought, oh, she's gonna find it. She got that rake, That
rake will do it every time.
The people had set a palm frond at the place where they thought they lost it. So we started there. My mom started raking, and we were just going out. And I thought, you know what? This is the time. I've got nothing to lose. I'm going to test this intuition thing. I'm just going to stand by the palm frond, close my eyes, and try to get a sense, which direction is that ring in? And I got a sense to go a certain way. And I walked out and I found a little kid's toy shovel that was just about to be buried by a layer of sand. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I picked it up and I just started kind of raking the sand with it, and clink, there's the ring.
Wow.
I was so stunned. And my vivid memory was later that day, after the people found out that we found it, was the woman coming down the beach. I just looked down the beach and I saw this woman all dressed up in this flowy dress. She was carrying this gigantic bouquet of exotic flowers and a bottle of wine. And it turned out to be that lady coming with a thank you gift because she was so happy that we had found her ring.
So now I'm a little bit confused on this. Was this an imaginary lady, or was she actually there on the beach?
This really happened.
Wow.
Yeah, that really happened.
Very cool.
She was coming to thank us for finding the ring. And I thought, wow, if that was a sign, if I was waiting for a sign, there it is.
Yeah. Well, you said something a little bit earlier when you were talking about being on the Dr. Phil show. You talked about this naysayer. And I found that there's a lot of people like that. The people who are embedded in pure science have a real hard time thinking outside the box. That's been my experience. Now, I've been a scientist myself. I have a master's degree in computer science, so I know all about the hard sciences. But I also happen to have a PhD in metaphysical science. So it's, I've tried to balance both sides, and I'm really amazed when I find people are so resistant to the idea of right brain versus left brain. Have you experienced that too?
Yes, I think we're just culturalized to really rely on logic and analyzing. And like you said in your introduction, there's kind of a minimalizing, or, that's just kind of woo-woo stuff. But I believe it's just as important. We need both. We need the logic and the creativity. We need the analysis and the connecting with the intuition.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I find that there's a lot of skeptics about pretty much anything. And if you even say something that seems to contradict what they believe, you're immediately branded some kind of a woo-woo, spiritualist or a conspiracy theorist or they've got some other name for you because you don't quite fit into their box. And consequently, what I think happens there is people become afraid to speak up. People become afraid to share what they have learned because they don't want to be ridiculed. They don't want to be shamed. They don't want to be shunned from society. And yet, what I've also learned, and maybe you've had this experience too, is sometimes it's the people with the craziest ideas that we really need to be listening to. And they're only crazy ideas because we didn't think of them.
Right. I totally agree. And here's the funny thing about the skeptic fellow that was on the Dr. Phil show. What they did is they gave him a room full of people so that he could do his fake reading. And he had, generic, okay, I'm getting somebody with an M. And he gave some very general information to get the people interested. And it was good. I mean, it could pass, it was like, oh, that was really cool. But then they had Colette Baron-Reed, who's an internationally known intuitive counselor. Then they had her work with the people, and she's pulling out specifics like, okay, I've got someone who got run over by a tractor, and it was really mind-blowing. But then at the end of the episode, Colette was telling the skeptic guy, she's like, hey, you know what? For you to be able to do such a convincing job at faking it means that you have those gifts. And of course, he didn't want to hear that. He did not accept that very well at all.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting because, I mean, I've read a lot of different people, and, I do read some scientific stuff. And there's one. Oh, now the name popped into my head and out again. Oh God, I hate it when that happens. There's Well, maybe I'll just move on so I don't waste time here. By the way, I see we have a whole bunch of people on now who joined just a few moments ago, and I want to just welcome you all.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you for joining us. If you have questions or comments, please just post them into the chat so that we can respond to them as we go. So this idea of logic is great. Linear thinking is great. Scientific method is a wonderful tool. All of these things are wonderful, powerful tools, and they really do help us to understand the physical world. Yes. But there are people out there, and Dean Radin, a PhD who works at the IONS, the Institute of Noetic Sciences, he does a lot of research on, and not just him, but there's many others like him who do research in what they call the paranormal. Paranormal just means something that's beyond the normal, because they have no easy way of doing scientific testing on it. But they have done, they've figured out ways of doing things on for certain kinds of testing, like remote viewing, telepathy, and various other so-called paranormal things. And he's got outstanding results where the results are far better than statistical random chance. So, there's definitely something there. We just maybe haven't quite figured out how to scientifically prove it. And why we need proof in the first place, well, that's a different question.
Yes, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah,
you're reminding me of a book that I'm reading right now, Hands of Light. And her name is Barbara. I'm forgetting her last name right now, but the book is Hands of Light. And she's a former NASA physicist.
Right.
And this book is about the energy body and what we can do with our magical hands.
Right.
It's
absolutely amazing. Well, and now that you mention that, I know of at least 2 brain specialists, and Jill Bolt Taylor is one of them. I can't remember the name of the other one, but Jill Bolt Taylor had her own mini stroke that she And because she was a scientific person involved in brain studies, she was able to document her experience. And it's an amazing story. If you haven't seen her presentation on TEDx, I highly recommend you watch it. And then there's this other
I recommend it too.
This other scientist whose name I don't recall, but he too was a brain surgeon or scientist or something, who was a complete atheist. And yet he had a near-death experience, which completely shifted his perspective. You know, he heard about all these near-death experiences, and I think he was doing research in that area, trying to debunk them all. And then he had one of his own. I mean, I think it's just so amazing. That's how spirit works.
Right. Is that
here you go?
Is that Dr. Joe Dispenza? Is that who you're?
No, I don't think so.
Referring to? Okay.
Somebody else. But that's just the point, isn't it? Sometimes the evidence is right there in front of us. And we just don't want to accept it as it is. I remember, now this is an unrelated story, but I just read on the web yesterday. There's now scientific proof that dogs love us. Somebody had to do a study about that.
Wow.
Even though the evidence has been obvious for centuries, you know?
Yes.
But that's what happened.
And you know, you were talking about it's all around us and we can't accept it. I think we can't see it because there's a part of the brain that is actually responsible for picking out the things that make sense to us based on our past experience. So that makes it hard to see new unexplainable things that are around us.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
The reticular activating system, I believe it's called.
Sure. Yeah, and you know, and our life experience, every experience we have leads us to have some kind of beliefs about life. Exactly. And those beliefs, the moment we take on those beliefs, we immediately put a filter in place so that future experiences are now immediately biased by the past experiences. And so all of it contributes to exactly what you're talking about. We can't see something even though it's right there in front of us. And we seem to require proof when proof really isn't necessary.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why we need tools. We need tools to that will allow us to see new things and new perspectives.
Correct. And that's why we're here, to share those kinds of tools. That's why we do it. Yeah. So we have this idea of perspectives, filters, and all that other kind of stuff, and bias. And as you mentioned, I don't remember if you mentioned this during the show or if we were talking about it beforehand, but the natural tendency of our brain to look for the negative because we're trying to protect ourselves from dangers. And this has just been built into our biology for tens of thousands of years. Right. And so now that's another thing that we have to work against.
Yeah, the negative bias, because we are prey animals. I mean, we've evolved to a point where we can really protect ourselves from other animals, but deep down, we are prey animals. And so we have that negative bias, that wiring that causes us to scan the horizon for danger on a regular basis. Correct. And it keeps us in stress response too, which cuts us off from our intuition. And it also is bad for our health because when you're in stress response, your body's getting ready for fight or flight. And it's saying, okay, digestion isn't important right now. Healing isn't important right now. Rest is not important right now. We've got to run or fight. And we have a real issue in our society right now of people running around a chronic stress response.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, stress is a big deal right now. So many things happening in our world, and the people that I talk to, they're living in fear, and it's really too bad. Yeah, I can always tell people there's nothing to be afraid of, but that doesn't change their perspective. The
Right.
reality is you have to look for yourself and trust that, this is not really who I am. This body is just something that I use as a mechanism to get around this world. It's not really who I am. And who I am is far, far, far bigger and way more amazing than just this body and the thoughts and the roles I play and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
when you can get to that understanding, which by the way requires one of the tools that we're talking about today, when you can get to that level of understanding, then stress seems to just kind of naturally melt away. Now, I'm not going to say you never get angry. I'm not going to say you never get afraid. I'm not going to say you never feel sadness. I'm just going to say that when you understand who you really are in the bigger picture, then you can release that much more easily and stay connected to that essence, and therefore reduce your stress, reduce your tension, reduce your reactivity, and become more grounded and centered in intuition, as you're calling it. And speaking of which, now I want to get your definition. What exactly in your mind is intuition?
Yes, and great question. Intuition to me is the way that we communicate with that source that you're talking about. And people have different names for it. Some people call it the soul. Some people call it your inner being. I have a mentor who calls it your inner star player. The star player knows what to do.
Right.
And so intuition is the way, it's the method of communication.
Right. So if I can summarize, you see intuition as a kind of a communication mechanism for connecting to source or the essence of who I really am. I assume, is that how you're interpreting it? Okay.
Yes, I love how you said that, essence of who you are. Yes.
Right. So tell me more about the mechanism, the connection or the communication mechanism.
Yes, I think it's hard to connect with the intuition because we have such busy minds. We were talking earlier about how many thoughts a day. It's something like 70 to 90,000 thoughts per day. And a lot of them are fear-based because we're scanning the horizon for danger. So we have very active, busy minds. It's just part of being human. But the intuition doesn't speak a language, so it gets drowned out. Intuition is more about feeling, and I like to also use visualization because it speaks to us in symbols.
Very good.
Hopefully we'll be doing that, a little bit of that today.
Sure. Yeah. That's very, very, I think, consistent with my own understanding. I agree that we probably use different terminologies, and that's okay. People use the terminology that really resonates for them the most. And I encourage that, actually, because then you feel more connected to it. You feel more like it's more real for you. So
exactly.
Yeah. Great. So now let's just talk a little bit more about how you establish the connection into this intuition. And you talked about, the chatter and the thoughts and everything else. How do you go about reducing the thoughts, or not reducing them, but quieting them, I guess is the right word, so that you can hear that voice or see those symbols or visualize whatever it is going on inside?
Yes, there is a really fascinating book by Candace Pert about, I think it's called Your Body is Your Subconscious. And I think that is a fascinating concept, because we think of the subconscious as just a part of our mind that's underneath, but physically it's our body. And when the mind is in its chatterbox mode, talk, we're up in our heads and we're kind of forgetting about our bodies. And so the way to start getting in touch with your intuition is to drop down into your body. And I think the easiest way to do that is to start focusing on your breath.
Right.
And getting your hands on your body. It's like, oh, body's here, not all the way up here.
Yeah, right.
So that's usually how I start when I'm working with a client and we're getting ready to do a process. We start by just tuning into the body, breathing, feeling the support of whatever we're sitting on or standing on. Just more of a body awareness. So that's where we begin.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, I do a lot of the same work with people. And for me, I never thought about it in the way that you described it. I never thought about it as the body being the subconscious. But I did think about it as, if I can draw your attention here into your body, then I pull your attention away from up here. I bring your focus down into here. And we talk more about what are the sensations, what are the emotions, what are the feelings, what's going on, what movements do you feel in your body, that sort of thing, rather than the thoughts that are associated with it, you know. Although here's what's interesting, I find that when I ask people, so what are you feeling? Well, they have to use words, which often are associated with thoughts. And this is the problem that we have. We still end up coming back to our head, and that's when I have to say, well, just stay down there, keep your focus down there. As you close your eyes and actually see your eyes looking at that area where your hands are. And so if you move your hands down to your legs, try and let your eyes look at that area where your legs are, you know, or where
yes,
it's
super powerful, because people get disconnected from parts of their bodies. Our bodies have this process called somatization. We somaticize experiences that we have, little traumas, big traumas, things that our brains don't know how to cognitively process at the time. They get stored in the soft tissues of our bodies. And that can make it hard to connect to that area of the body and feel anything. So that can be hard when you ask somebody, what do you feel? And it's better to ask them what they see.
Yeah, that's great. And that's a powerful point. And I don't want to just gloss over it, because I think it's really important. And that is any energy that comes into us from whatever source it may have come from. If we don't allow it to have its moment and pass through us, then it does get stuck. And it will find a place in the body somewhere. And if it stays stuck there long enough, it can cause negative results in the body. It can cause pain. It can cause disease. It can cause all kinds of things that you would never, ever expect. I'm a healthy person. What am I doing with cancer? Well, maybe you've got cancer. Now, I'm not going to say that this is always true. There might be physical reasons for it. But have you thought about what's your attitude towards life? What are you thinking about? What are you focusing your attention on? Where is your attention? What are you attracting into your life by your thoughts? If you continue to do that, then you can, surprise, surprise, get a serious disease and even cancer.
That's right. That's why I have moved my practice into including healing facilitation, because we've got stress in the mind, but we also have tension in the body.
Right.
And it's unconscious, and it's using our vital life energy. That's why as we go along, we get more and more tired, we get more and more stiff. Because as we go through life, we're collecting these experiences, and the pieces of them that we can't quite process at the time get stored like data files for later processing. That's why we really need strategies that are going to help us release the energetic charge, or upload these data files to be processed.
The moment you said data files, I immediately thought, yeah, that's why my spam folder is so full. So somewhere in my body, there's a spam folder of stuff that I'm just not paying attention to. I love it.
That's right.
That's part of the problem. Every once in a while, you got to go check out that spam folder. You know, you put it there because you thought it
Figure it out.
but now, hey, that spam is starting to act up. It's probably got a computer virus in it. You know, you better run some malware on that spam folder. Yeah, this is something that we all have to do from time to time, and that's exactly
Yes.
what we're trying to teach today. Is about getting connected into the truth of who you really are, so that you can remember that this body is not really who you are, and that you can release all that stuff. I mean, you don't need any files hanging around in your body, to be honest, let alone the spam files. So just let them all go.
Right. Well, the interesting thing with healing facilitation, and what that is, by the way, is just me, I call it facilitation. I'm not doing a healing on people. I'm teaching people strategies for how to optimize the tension in their body. It's
Right.
not just get rid of it all, because we actually need tension in our bodies for the structure, you know, to be able to move. I think about it in terms of a musical instrument. Your body is like a musical instrument. So if you think about guitar strings, you don't want them too tight, but you also don't want them too loose. So there's an optimization of tension, and that's what the healing facilitation strategies are for.
Right, right. And as I said, that's what a mechanical engineer would know, because you know all about structures and making them stand and that sort of thing, and how you apply forces in certain directions in order to, you know, encounter forces and all the rest of it. Yeah, but you're absolutely right. And our bodies, actually, if you think about it, are amazing structures with all kinds of fascinating and wonderful counter forces to hold the skeleton together, to allow movement in so many different ways. It's an amazing, amazing structure.
Oh, yeah. And the healing capability of the body is incredible.
Yeah.
I like to say, we just have to create space for it. Like, it's an innate intelligence in us. We have to create the space for it. If we're running around in chronic stress, there's not enough time for the rejuvenation and the healing to take place. And if you've got some area of your body that's all locked up with tension, it's not healing.
Right, right. Okay, so a little earlier you talked about the body being the subconscious mind, and I want to just kind of come back to that for a little bit. I think the subconscious mind is an important topic unto itself, because the subconscious mind is where all these conditioning programs and stuff operate. Once we take on the belief system, it eventually just kind of drops down into the subconscious, and then we operate kind of like in autopilot, you know? And so the question now I want to get to is, how do we bring our awareness more to these individual conditionings and the programs, so that we can either eliminate them, rewrite them, or find new programs to replace them?
Well, I have lots of ways that I use with my clients, but for today, I wanted to use an intuitive process called Get on Your Bird. And what we do with this process, because the intuition speaks in pictures, and so the first step is to close your eyes. We'll just go right into it if you don't mind.
No, go for it.
Okay, so close your eyes, and we're going to tune into our breath. I'm going to say, okay, mind, enough thinking for right now. Time for a little relaxation of the chatterbox. Sinking into your body, just feeling your breath. What I should have had everybody do first is tune into the feeling that has the most intensity for you right now. So maybe you're feeling overwhelmed by some things in your life, anxious, maybe you're angry. I want you to tune in to the emotion that is most intense for you. And so when you close your eyes, you're going to ask your subconscious, your intuition, to show you, what does that feeling look like as a landscape? When I'm feeling that feeling, where am I? And yeah, it might be a desert, you might be in the middle of the ocean, you might be in a dark forest. What comes to mind first? That is a representation of that intense feeling. And generally, this is going to be some kind of challenging landscape. So I want to let everybody know that you're an observer in this landscape and you are safe, but you're still able to see what it's like, to feel what it's like. And it might not be comfortable. It might feel too hot. It might feel too cold. You know, there might be lava. You might feel like you need to do something. So in this challenging landscape, you'll just look around, be the observer, notice what it's like, and then you're going to ask your intuition to send in a flying creature. And don't judge whatever it is. It could be a bird, it could be something mythical, it could be something that doesn't normally fly. Just notice what comes to mind first. And that being is going to come in as your ally. And you're going to be able to climb onto its back, and it's going to fly you up above this landscape. It's going to fly you up to where the air is more clear, the temperature is just right. If you wish, you don't have to, but if you wish, you can get a bird's eye view of that challenging landscape. But you are taken care of by this creature. And you can notice, what does it feel like to be on its back? Does it have fur? Does it have feathers? Is it skin? Feeling the support of this creature. And then you can ask it to take you to a sanctuary landscape, a place where you feel safe, a place where you feel like you can relax. Even just speaking that, I could take a deeper breath. So that creature is going to take you to that new landscape. Where you can relax. You can explore, you can sit down, whatever feels right to you. This is a wonderful form of self-care. And when you're ready, you can gently come back to the present moment. And this really fun conversation I'm having with David.
Well, I'd like to hear from the people who are on this show right now. Can you please just take a minute and type into the chat box, if you, I hope you followed this exercise, but just describe for us briefly what your experience was like. I'd like to hear from you. And while we're waiting for that, I will just explain briefly what I got out of it.
Great.
My dark landscape was actually, I was on a beach, strangely enough, but it was a beach with, I didn't realize it was a beach. I thought it was a desert at first, because I couldn't feel the heat or anything, but there were flames on the hills coming over the hills towards me. And that's when I realized that the ocean was right behind me. So I was actually standing on the beach with this fire coming towards me, and I'm just watching it come, and then I realize, oh yeah, there's water coming up behind my feet here. So I'm on the beach. And when I called in my creature, it turned out to be my power animal, which is a black wolf with great, big, beautiful wings. And,
ooh, love it.
Yeah, he was, well, he's my power animal, my hero, my guide. But my black wolf, so now I always used to call him my transcendent black wolf, but now I'm going to call him my flying black wolf.
There you go, your magical flying creature.
And he took me to just an open green meadow that was a place that I love to go camping actually up in the Sierras. A place called Meadow Lake, which is up there, and I don't even remember the name of the town up there. Miwok, I think it's called Miwok up in. Anyway, you probably know that area better than me because you live up there in Auburn, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
I don't know if I've been to that one, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so it was a beautiful experience, and yeah, thank you for sharing that. I can see. I love visualizations like that. Allowing my imagination to create something that's unique to me. And here we go. There's one from Sandra. I'm going to read.
Oh, boy, we're getting a bunch. Okay, I want to make a few comments on yours, David. I love that you got a beach because water, well, here's the cool thing about symbolism. No matter where you were born or what culture you grew up in, there is this collective consciousness around what symbols mean. So for instance, water represents emotion. So when you go into an envision and you get a landscape that has some water in it, you can notice things about it. Is it calm or is it tumultuous? Is it shallow or is it deep? Do you want to go swimming in it or are you afraid of it? There's all these things that you can notice about water, and beaches are a special landscape because the sand represents the mind. And so a beach is where the mind and the emotions are meeting. And you had the fire coming over the hill. And what's really fun, my favorite part of Envision is to go afterwards and look up the symbolism for each of these things. And you can just type it into Google. You can say symbolic meaning of.
Right.
And I always get profound meanings. And the other reason that this exercise is powerful is that you're creating new neurological pathways. You're teaching your mind that you can get spatial distance from challenging emotions. You know, if you are stuck in a feeling of overwhelm, this can help your mind realize, oh, I don't have to change the landscape. I can fly up out of it. I have help. I have intuitive help to help me fly up out of it and go to a different place within me. So it's super, I mean, it may seem kind of woo-woo, but it's super powerful. The lady that I learned this from, she has CEOs who pay her like $1,000 a session to do this work with them.
Right. Yeah, it's great. I wanted to mention that the other side of this flying piece is that, I don't know if you thought about this or not, but it's something that I've been thinking a lot about. We talk about elevating consciousness. And when you're at this level, at the level that you're at right now, you only see things at your current level of consciousness. But when you're flying or elevating, you see a whole new perspective and your consciousness gets elevated in the same way. It's a beautiful metaphor. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes, I love how you said that. You really have a way with words, and that's another way that it's so powerful.
Right.
Okay, let's see what Sandra got. She got a lunar landscape, and she went into a forest with trees and berry bushes, a vegetable garden, a waterfall, and a calm pool of water. The issue is health and a feeling of the safe place with abundance and healthy food. Yeah, feeling is so important. If you study law of attraction, you find out that your feelings are your emotional guidance system for how connected you are to that source, your inner being, your soul. When you feel bad, you are more disconnected than when you feel joyful.
Right. Yeah. That was beautiful. Thank you, Sandra, for sharing that.
Yes, thank you so much.
From Melissa. My landscape was the canyons, and my winged friend was an eagle. Love eagles. So I saw the rocky valleys, the ups and downs, and the bird's eye view. I saw the waterfalls and the greenery on the bottom, and saw peace and serenity in the midst of the valleys. Beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah, and I really encourage people to Google the aspects of things that they saw, so you can go. And in fact, I could just do it now, of the symbolic meaning of eagle. I believe it's strength and being able to see. The chief of all the winged creature, it conveys the powers and messages of spirit. It is man's connection to the divine because it flies higher than any other bird. If the eagle has appeared, it bestows freedom and courage to look ahead. How awesome is that?
That's pretty good. Yep. Yeah, eagles are amazing creatures for sure, and really, really beautiful in the way they fly. They're just amazing. Yeah. So okay, good. So this was
I love teaching. This is a simple tool. You can do this in a few minutes. If you're at work and you're stressed about something, and stress is not the great place to be. You can't make decisions. You can't make good decisions. You're in your lizard brain at that point, right? You can go into the bathroom and take a few minutes to just say, okay, where am I? And you see that landscape. You call in your ally, you fly up out of it. This is going to shift. I promise you, this is going to shift things in your life.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. And I love these somaticizations, if you like.
Yes,
I got that word right. But the idea, just using the word visualize implies just seeing stuff. But I like the way you talk about bring in all your other senses. Like, what do you smell? What does the air smell like?
Yes.
When I do visualizations with people, that's how I do it. Imagine,
yes.
Smell the flowers out there, or the sand, or the water, or what? Can you smell the smoke from the fire? Whatever it is, just notice how that reacts, because smell is a powerful, powerful agent. And we often don't think about it. And even when you're doing I call it a sensualization, but maybe that sounds more too sexualized. I don't know. But the idea is using all the senses rather than just vision. And so I really love that you brought that in and you gave a name to it, somaticization, which I think I'm going to try and figure out how to use that going forward. But just think about another thing that I've done with visualizations. So is it cold? Do you feel goosebumps on your skin? Because that's when I get chilled, that's what I feel. Or sometimes I'll feel that energy going up and down my spine. You ever have that happen? Or the hairs on the back of my neck go moving, if I'm feeling fear or whatever. So all of those little signals are fabulous, fabulous reminders to people that your body is talking to you constantly.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. And on an easier term that I think people understand is stuffing. Like, everybody has heard of, I stuffed it, stuffing of the emotions. That's what the somaticizing is.
Somaticizing is the reverse of stuffing? Is that what you mean?
No, it is. It is the stuffing.
Oh.
So soma is body. Soma means body.
Uh-huh.
And so when you somaticize something, you are stuffing something into the body.
Oh, okay. So I guess I don't want to use that word in that way then. Yeah.
Yeah, that stuffing is what's using your vital life energy to keep that tension. Like, if everybody make a fist, make a really hard fist. You're holding it tight. This probably doesn't feel too comfortable, does it? And so you can consciously say, that doesn't feel good. I'm going to let it go. But when you have unconscious tension in your body, it's staying there. It's using that vital life energy. It's like, I've got to protect the brain from this, because the brain doesn't know how to process this.
Right.
these exercises that we're doing are, let me use the example of energy. You've got free energy and you've got bound energy. So tension would be an example of bound energy. And it's not actually any different than free energy. It's just forgotten its relationship with freedom. And so what we want to do is we want to focus on the free energy in order to invite the bound energy to find its relationship with freedom again. So a lot of these tools that I work with my clients, that's what it's about. With law of attraction, what you focus on expands. So doesn't it make sense to focus on wellness, to focus on what's working, to focus on ease? But we are so culturalized to focus on our problems. We go to practitioners because we want them to fix our problem for us.
Yeah, that's very true, you know, and I think science has demonstrated that we probably have about 80% of our thoughts are negative thoughts. Now that sounds phenomenally high and maybe even hard to believe for people, especially if they have done a lot of personal growth work. But I know of a study that was done, I don't know when this was done, in the 70s, I think, or maybe the 80s, where some people just followed kids around to, you know, for some period of time, a long period of time. And they were astounded that some of the feedback that these kids got from their parents, their loved ones, their teachers, they would get maybe one really positive comment and 19 negative ones.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that shouldn't be surprising. If I'm thinking negative thoughts about myself, then I'm probably thinking negative thoughts about other people too. And so consequently, the words that come out of my mouth that I talk to other people have a tendency to be negative. So I really have to work at finding the positive in something that I'm doing, because my brain just keeps wanting to criticize and judge and put down and all the rest of it. So it's an effort, and you cannot do it unless you raise your awareness about what's really going on. And if you can do it even better, if you reconnect to this part inside, this intuition that we've been talking about here today.
Yes, finding the ease. Gratuity journals. Yeah, every day I'm doing exercises to try and get that focus on the positive, what's working.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, I'm not going to say that I've mastered it either.
Well, that's the whole point, isn't it? Mastery is a process. Yeah. You know, I don't believe that anybody can claim to have mastered everything.
Right.
So we're all on a path. We're all at different levels, and it's wonderful. I just wanted to acknowledge what Sandra said here. She added another comment. Do you want to read that?
Sure. She said, my animal was a Pegasus. Oh, love that. Powerful. The meaning I read is mighty or strong, but another connects the name with the Greek word for a spring or a well. Fits perfectly with wanting my strength back after almost dying from COVID. Wow. That's powerful. Yeah. I'm so glad you're here with us.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we're here for, is to help people to live and thrive and develop new skills, to raise their awareness, to raise their consciousness, so that the whole world can benefit from that. Because the moment one person raises his or her consciousness, the consciousness of the world automatically starts to go up. So no matter how dark things might look on the outside, we have a choice about how we can choose to perceive it. And we can bring love to it if we want to.
Exactly. That's the best thing that we can do for this planet, is to find the good stuff, the ease within us, and share it.
Yeah.
That's why when I talk to people, I ask them, hey, what are you celebrating today? Or, you know, what's going well? I try to have it be a little bit more meaningful than, oh, hey, how you doing? And then we get the generic, oh, I'm fine.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, how are you? Oh, fine. So much for that
Yeah,
conversation.
and I know, and it's funny because I've tried to be conscious about how I answer that question, but it's so ingrained that it's like, oh, I'm gonna have to think too hard. I'm fine.
Well, and I like your question. So what's really going well for you today?
Yeah, what's
And
going
now
well for me right now is this interview. I'm loving it.
yeah, yeah. Or what are you grateful for today? Let's
Yeah.
make every day Thanksgiving Day. What if we all could do that? Just say, instead of saying, hi, how are you? Say, hi there, my friend. I haven't seen you for a while. What are you grateful for today? Can you imagine the different conversation that would ensue if you did that?
Mhm. Yeah. Yep. And it throws people a little bit because, we're so used to talking about our problems. Oh, I got this going on and no, no, no. But
Exactly.
if
Yeah.
we can shift that, it's powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to really think consciously about asking people. So what are you grateful for today?
Yeah.
I'm not even going to give them a chance to go into yeah, my life sucks. My wife's having
Right.
sex with another guy and, I don't want to hear it. All right. Well, Jenny, it's been absolutely fabulous having you here. Before I close this up and wrap it up, I wonder if is there something that you'd like to say? Would you like to offer to people before we wrap this up?
Oh, sure. People are welcome to go to my website at jennyhugheshealing.com. I have my events listed on Eventbrite, and there's a link for that on the website. I always offer the initial clarity session, is what I call that, as complimentary. So you can call me up and schedule a conversation, and we just talk one-on-one privately about where you're at, where you'd like to be. And the best part is figuring out what is your next best action step to get you in the direction that you want to be going. And it's not always working with me. It could be something totally different. But yeah, the clarity sessions are really great. I'm doing classes online now. COVID, shelter at home has forced things to be online. I have a workshop coming up on Thursday, that's tomorrow evening. I'll be teaching what I call evolutionary personal skills. And that'll be another simple tool for connecting with your body, finding the ease and expanding the ease. And it's really good for your nervous system. And a point I wanted to make about the intuition is all that tension in our body, that makes it harder for us to connect to our intuition. So this is all connected. These exercises help us calm, they help us be more responsive rather than reactionary. They help us connect to our inner clarity, is what I call it, and
Beautiful.
inner freedom.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jenny. So just to be clear, all of this information is on your website, right? At jennyhugheshealing.com. Jenny, Jenny, Hughes, Hughes, and healing, healing.com. jennyhugheshealing.com.
Yes.
So I like saying
That's
that
where you can find me.
so that people who are watching the recording can actually get this information and head over there. Although they may see it after tomorrow and they may not be able to participate in this workshop, but anyway, thanks again for being here. I really appreciate it. It's been a great pleasure having you here. And I want to thank everyone else who showed up. It's wonderful to have you live on the show and to share your experience. And I also want to, for those of you who are just watching the recording, I want to remind you that you can watch this show and every other show that I do on my website at lifemasterytv.com. That's life-mastery-tv.com. And I truly hope you enjoyed this presentation. In a few hours, you're probably going to receive an email from the Learn It Live folks. They always like to get feedback. And it would be helpful to me and to the people on this show if you could take time to do a heartfelt review for us. I would really appreciate that. And finally, please remember to practice the life mastery mantra every single day, multiple times a day if you can. And it goes like this. I gratefully forgive the imperfect being I have been in the past. I gratefully accept the magnificent being I am right now. I gratefully welcome the evolved being I am becoming in each new moment. So until we meet again, my name is David McLeod. I'm your life mastery coach, wishing you love, light, and blessings on your continuing journey. Until next time, have a great week or life or day or whatever. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.